Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to a special edition of our weekly slate breakdown. We'll be breaking down the 2-gamer Saturday and the 3-gamer Sunday. I am Jan Zero, joined by Jungwerb. Mr. Blaine, how are you?
Doing pretty good. So we had a good week last week in our Discord. I didn't have to play any because I hate week 18 and like the preseason. There's too much stuff going on to keep track of. But it seemed like people did pretty well with it.
Yeah, I'll open them up here so we can look at them. Is that showing? No, of course not. All right, I'm sharing the wrong screen, but anyways, if you do check out our Discord, head over to the Winners Wall channel. We feature our wins there, and for anybody watching who's not aware, if you do finish, top 5 in a contest of 5K or bigger with our logo, if you tweet that out or let us know and we promote it, we can get you a free month of AceMind Pro. So that's access to everything on the site, our optimizer, our sims, NFL projections, and some upcoming stuff with tennis, which some of our users are excited about. Blaine, I know, is excited about tennis being back in fashion. So it's a good time to use our avatar and win some contests because you got a lot of DFS to play coming up.
We should change our promo code to EGA.
Yeah, we should. Anyways, so on Saturday, first game to kick off is going to be the Chargers at the Texans. 3-point road favorites for the Chargers going up against the Texans. They will be without Josh Palmer, who had a foot injury. That concentrates volume into Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnston obviously coming off a huge game last time he played the full game, so might be some popularity going that way. It's a 2-gamer, so ownership in general is going to be fairly concentrated on basically any play worth playing on the slate. But for the Chargers, on their side, it is a much better matchup for them through the air than it is on the ground. Houston's defense really good against the run. So even though Harbaugh likes to establish the run, I think even as road favorites, I think there's going to be some passing in this game. Hopefully, sets up good for both sides of the ball.
Yeah, worth noting, Quentin Johnston missed some practices with like a thigh issue or something, or quad.
Yeah, he was limited yesterday, didn't practice Thursday, so may not be 100%, but obviously Chargers in this wild card game vying for the playoffs, going to be playing guys if they can.
Yeah, for sure. It's worth noting just because Houston has Derek Stingley Jr. is one of the best corners, and if Johnson's out, I'm not sure if he'll follow Ladd McConkey into the slot, but it definitely makes it more difficult for McConkey, where there's be even more attention on him without at least a huge deep threat like Quentin Johnston there. I mean, I know everybody has their own opinion about Quentin Johnston, but he does stretch the field.
Yeah, he does. He often doesn't see games of like more than double-digit targets really ever. I think like the last time he popped off was when he had a double-digit target game, and I mean, in general, he's not getting the same volume that Ladd is, but obviously the shots he is getting are much higher upside targets.
Yeah, what do you make of this Chargers backfield? I mean, Dobbins at 40% ownership. Is he a full go now? I don't really understand what his deal is. Like this backfield has been so hard to figure out all year long. I kind of just feel like punting on it, being under on all of them, and just playing into the passing game, if anything.
Yeah, it's not fun too. We'll talk about the backfield and the Ravens as well, or not the Ravens, for the Broncos on the Sunday slate. But I feel kind of similar there, where like I don't know, J.K. Dobbins is going to get like 10 carries, 12 carries, or like 16 carries maybe, and then like Gus Edwards is going to mix in, and it's not a great matchup on the ground against the Texans anyway. They're only allowing 4 yards a carry and 18 points per game, fantasy points per game to opposing running back fields, and then obviously you have Dobbins and Edwards splitting that usage in that production. So it's really not my favorite spot to go. But again, on a 2-gamer, like you're going to be rostering those guys on your lineups because I mean they're starters in an offense that's projected to do well. So,
yep, agree with you there. It's just a tough game to figure out. I don't really understand, and this isn't a betting podcast, but the Chargers being favored by 3 on the road here is really surprising. I mean, the sentiment on Houston's so low right now. They still have 2 elite playmakers, and they still have a really good defense. So I don't know. I'm not exactly bullish on the Chargers' chances here of scoring a bunch of points. Like I kind of feel like overall on this slate, only 2 games, I just want to be way overweight on Baltimore onslaughts and kind of be underweight on most of this game, with the exception of like Nico Collins or Ladd McConkey, for example.
Yeah, and like Justin Herbert, really doesn't turn the ball over, but he is susceptible to taking sacks, and the Texans are really good at getting pressure on the quarterback. So they're good at stopping the run as well too. So I mean, I think if production is going to be happening on the Charger side, and I want to roster it, it's going to be through the air. I like guys like McConkey and Disley, and a bit of Quentin Johnston too, even though he has troubles catching the ball, but
yeah,
is what it is.
In the Sims I was running earlier, I was getting there's pretty much only it's Lamar or Herbert, and then like a little bit of Stroud, but I mean definitely a lot of focus on Herbert. I am a little bit worried about Herbert's mobility, but he has been running a little bit more lately. He had that ankle injury that kind of hampered him for a while. Yeah, just I don't know. This is just a tough game for me to figure out overall. I know I want to play Nico Collins and Mixon and McConkey, and then it's like just take dart throws on like Darius Davis or John Mechie and hope one of them catches a deep pass.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, I like Joe Mixon quite a bit too in this matchup. It's a better matchup for them on the ground than it is through the air. And then on top of that, they're at home and playing. They're going to want to control the game and keep the Chargers off the field. So I definitely like Mixon there. He's going to get his touches for sure. And, he has scores this year of, high 20s. So, totally possible to be in a winning lineup here. And I like him as part of like a Justin Herbert stack.
Yeah, it's kind of the slate kind of sets up like we haven't talked about the second game yet, but it kind of setting up like an NBA 2-game slate where you kind of want to play there's so much value, especially in the second game with some of the Baltimore receivers. You like Mixon and Collins are so likely to post a score that it isn't going to be surpassed. I'd rather just play into the high salary guys here and then play into the value in the next game. I mean, obviously we still have Derrick Henry and Lamar, but that's kind of the way I'm thinking about approaching this. And then just having dart throws on the lower salary guys. But definitely, like, aside I don't know how many lines we're going to play tomorrow on FanDuel, but I don't think I'm going to have too many game stacks of this game. I think I'd much more likely to game stack the second game. Oh, we lost Chan.
No, I'm back. Sorry. Fiance just got home and Max was losing his mind, so I had to mute for a bit. Like whenever me or her get home, he like sings. I don't know. It's weird. Like there's like these high pitched yodel types. It's kind of adorable, but also annoying if you're doing a show. So
is he Austrian? Max has the name for it.
Yeah, Max.
Yep.
Yeah, as far as cheap guys go, I do like rostering them too. I think my favorite options in here are DJ Chark for the Chargers. Snap participation is up a little bit. Obviously, I think his floor is 0 for sure on the game. But again, at 3,100, I mean, you don't need much from him, and there's always upside in playing these low-owned guys. And then I'll give a shout-out to the Clones legend, Xavier Hutchinson, on the other side as well.
I've been known to play the Xavier Hutchinson in Showdown.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with those. I think like super dart throws, Darius Davis, like I said earlier, they do scheme up every now and then. They scheme up shots for him. And then we've seen Stone Smart like randomly have decent games as a tight end. And I don't mind that either. I mean, he's the second tight end behind Disley. So, 2-game slate. And like I said, I'm trying to get to these high price guys that I'm going to need to find value somewhere. And those are like two pretty obvious, not obvious, but 2 spots I'll be looking to go to.
Right, like out of the cheapies that none of them feel good to play, but if I did have some, it's going to be those guys, just a little bit of them.
Yep.
Anything else you want to cover from this game?
No, I mean, I think I'm just going to be Collins is, I think I'll probably play like 20 lineups or something on FanDuel in the main. I'll probably have Collins 100% or close to, and Mixon will have a huge chunk too. I'll be over on both of them. I think that's my strategy for this slate is to kind of get the floor with those 2 guys, and then maybe McConkey or somebody else from the Chargers, and then load up on the second game. Yeah,
I like that. Speaking of the second game, let's move on to it. That is the Steelers at the Ravens. Zay Flowers will be out for the Ravens, so that's going to lead to more double tight end sets, so more usage for Andrews and Likely, and probably more targets for Rashad Bateman as well. And
Eagles legend. Nelson Aguilar.
Yep, Nelson. Shout out Nelson. These teams have played twice. First time was at home for the Steelers, and they won a pretty low scoring game, and then on the road they got their butts handed to them. So probably another scenario there too. The Ravens offense is just so powerful and elite with yardage everywhere between. I think Lamar and Henry are posting like 50 plus combined points more often than they aren't this season. So lot of scoring and production to happen on that side of the ball. What's your favorite way to stack the Ravens side?
I mean, there's lots of ways. I don't really know if I'd have a favorite. I mean, I probably would focus mostly on slots like 4 or 5 players, just because their team total is just substantially higher than everybody else's. The other 3 teams on the slate that it's just so unlikely that they would fail. That I just feel like people aren't going to be playing the Lamar plus 3 or 4 pass catchers lineups enough, and I feel like that's the way to do it. And maybe it's Lamar, Henry, and then 3 pass catchers or something like that. But I just think that's going to be a little under-owned, even though it's like the most obvious play in the slate, right? The team with a 28 team total, or play a team with a 17 team total.
Yeah. And then on the other side too, the Steelers, Russell Wilson will be playing with George Pickens. Obviously that helps him out a bit. They looked pretty miserable there for a few weeks without him. He's pretty key to this offense and getting the ball down the field. But outside of him, you've got tough matchups on the ground. Ravens are first in yards per carry. And it's going to be obviously a game script where they're going to have to be throwing the ball. So targets to guys they can rely on like Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens are going to be huge.
Yeah. Are you going to play? So I probably won't play any Russ in 20 lineups. I just don't think like he just doesn't have really a ceiling. And I think there is a little bit of concern that they could do something weird with. They haven't really shown it that much, but they could do some Justin Fields style packages to kind of cut into some of his Russell Wilson's work. I'm like 2% worried about that. I mean, it's not a huge concern, but I'm definitely thinking that it's possible here that Steelers are going to need to find a ways to score because I don't think there's any way they're stopping Baltimore. I'm not going to play much. I'm not going to play any Russell. Pickens, I don't know what to do with him either. I feel like he's probably I don't know, like he's all over the map. I mean, what can you really say about him? It's really hard to figure out. I kind of like if the field I don't think is going to be there, then I'll be over on him. But at 40% ownership, that feels okay to me.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to move the ball somehow, and I think it's probably through Pickens. Freiermuth is at season high snaps and route participation and targets. So I mean, that's good for him, and it might be a way for you to play this a little bit more unique. Mark Andrews, similar price to him, same position slot, obviously coming in with a bit more ownership than Freiermuth, but obviously the upside there is a bit higher. Andrews obviously a bit of competition with Isaiah Likely, but you do have Pat Freiermuth there on the tight end side for a little bit lower ownership if you want to go off the Mark Andrews route and concentrate your Baltimore stacks through other players.
Yeah. What do you make of the Pittsburgh backfield? And that's another one, like the Chargers, has been so hard to figure out all year. Last year and basically last week, in basically garbage time, Najee was getting all the snaps on a shotgun and all the receptions, and Jalen Horn was on the bench. So I don't know how much to read into that versus like maybe Warren was banged up or maybe they were resting him for some reason. It was just a really weird situation. Like 99% of the time, that's Jalen Warren taking those snaps, and it was Najee last week. I still kind of like going back to Jalen Warren, but I'm kind of curious. I mean, we have the ownership is projected about even for both of them. If that's the case, I'd probably be over on Jalen Warren and under on Najee, but that's just another tough one to figure out. It makes the slate like there's a lot of decision points for a 2-game slate. It feels like.
Yeah, it's always harder too because you could with just 2 games, there's a lot more time for you to like do analysis paralysis on different outcomes on both games and the way you want to construct rosters. I mean, the Pittsburgh backfield to me is not really appealing given the other running back options on the slate. Like we've got Mixon and Henry, and then you can mix in one other guy too on the lower side, but like these aren't probably the guys I want to go to. I mean, Justice Hill is coming back for the Ravens. I almost like going there better in some scenarios than the Pittsburgh backfield because, I mean, it's like a 60-40 split Najee, Jalen, like you said. Jalen usually getting the passing down work, but I mean, who knows what Mike Tomlin's going to do in the playoffs. I think he'll stick to it because it's worked well for them as well as it could have probably. But, again, the Ravens first in the NFL in yards per carry allowed and only allowing 18 fantasy points per game to running backs. So it's not a great spot to begin with, but it's fine to get there. It's 2-gamer.
Yeah, but the thing I'm really worried about here for Pittsburgh is just I just don't know how much they're gonna be able to move the ball through the air, especially. Baltimore was a pass funnel at the beginning of the year, and they improved a lot. Like I think they're the best pass defense the last 2 months, the last month of the season. I don't really see a reason why that wouldn't continue, and so it makes me nervous about taking some of these guys like Pickens, Freiermuth, Calvin Austin. Earlier in the season, I would have felt a lot better about playing some of these Pittsburgh skill position players, but now I'm just like, I'm worried about how much they're gonna be able to move the ball. And I think there's a floor on their ownership just because it's a 2-game slate, so people have to play somebody. And so that just makes me not want to play any of these guys, really. I mean, Jalen Warren is probably the skill position player I'm most interested in at 30% ownership. But like Calvin Austin Jr., I know the Sims are going to try to sneak him in because he has a ceiling if he catches a deep pass. But I'd much rather, for example, play Aguilar instead of Calvin Austin Jr.
Well, somebody's going to be playing Russell Wilson stacks. It's a danger witch time.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Yeah, be careful. It's spicy. I'm kind of with you on this game. I mean, I think it's fine to play Pittsburgh side of the ball as a way to be contrarian on the slate. You know, Russ is going to be one of the lower owned, if not the lowest owned quarterback on the slate. So it's fine. It's fine to get there, but I definitely like the Ravens side of the ball more. And I think, like you said, there's ways to stack it where you can still be unique. Just given the way that, you know, people like to build lineups on these smaller slates.
Yeah. Yeah, and like we've seen Baltimore supposed to be optimal in the regular season, kind of like the Detroit. Those are the two offenses all year long that you could play 4 players from, and they would end up winning lineups in the main slate. So I don't see a reason why we wouldn't be loading up on that in the 2-game slate.
Yeah, it's a very likely outcome. You know, there's fewer outcomes that can actually happen on a 2-gamer slate, and people tend to gravitate towards the most likely scenario. But I mean, oftentimes that's the right way. It's just how you approach that scenario that allows you to be unique.
Yeah. How do you rank these? Like Andrews is the clear. I don't want to say clear because nothing's really clear with Zay Flowers out, but Bateman is the clear like snap getter for the receivers, and Andrews is probably going to be the number 1 target for Lamar now.
Yeah.
How do you rank the rest of these guys? Like Bateman at 44% ownership. He just doesn't have a floor because he traditionally is like the field stretcher for Baltimore, and it's not like he's gonna be running the same routes as Zay Flowers was, where Zay Flowers gets a lot of short throws, a lot of screens. I don't think they're gonna do that for Bateman.
No, I don't see them like moving him into that role. I think Bateman will still have the same role he does, maybe a few more targets, second reads and stuff. But there was a showdown. It was probably like 4 or 5 weeks ago for the Ravens where Tylan Wallace came out of nowhere and scored like 30 points on the slate. I mean, we were talking about, like DJ Chark, Darius Davis types from the Chargers game. I mean, and Calvin Austin kind of used to be that guy too. He's kind of gotten more on the radar, more popular and a bit more priced, but he used to be that guy for Pittsburgh. But I kind of like Tylan Wallace on the other side for the Ravens as a really cheap way to stack with Lamar. And he has clear upside without Zay Flowers. I mean, you're not quite sure where the ball is going to go in the offense to begin with. So why not take a shot on a guy like him?
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. And he just needs one big catch in a 2-game slate to be optimal. I guess it's just in general for me, I'm looking to be a little bit under on Bateman. I mean, I'm sure he still has the ceiling, and his ceiling's even higher now without Flowers because the targets could be there. But I'd probably look to be under on Bateman and then over on the rest of these pass catchers. I think Andrews and Likely are likely, no pun intended, to take some of these short and intermediate throws that Zay Flowers gets. And I also think that Aguilar will mix in for some of those. Wallace and Bateman are like those are the ones that you're trying to hit a bomb with.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And I mentioned it earlier too, but I think Justice Hill is kind of a sneaky spot here too. I mean, again, like you said, team total massive. Derrick Henry's going to be getting most of the snaps and definitely most of the goal to go snaps for sure. But I mean, Justice Hill at 7%, they work him in the offense. He has a role in the offense and has PPR upside as well. So definitely a spot where you could roster him as a way to be contrarian.
Yep, agree. And I think like Najee and Warren are a classic example where we might want to up the negative correlation to make sure we don't get them in the same lineup. But Justice and Derrick Henry, I'd probably do the opposite and lower that a little bit. So I'm more likely to get them in the same lineup. There's no real reason why they both can't be optimal. And especially if the Ravens are going to score 4 touchdowns like they're projected.
Yep, I agree with you there. Is there anything else you want to cover from this game?
The defenses. So Steelers, I'll probably still get to some Steelers. The problem with Lamar is he's just so mobile that he doesn't take sacks, which is kind of like what you're hoping for when you play the cheap defense. A couple sacks and a forced fumble. But Steelers voodoo magic makes me think that they might still force a couple turnovers, and they're so cheap. It lets me fit in. It lets you fit in Mixon and Collins pretty easily with some of these Ravens players. So I don't mind playing the Steelers defense with like 4 or 5 Ravens. I think that's still okay on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, defenses are pretty random, like you said. I'd probably prefer to play like Houston D probably, but I also kind of like getting to Ravens D and parts of like a Lamar Henry onslaught as well. Just saying that this game kind of goes like last game did, where they win 37 to 13 or 14 or whatever they scored, and through that negative game script, hopefully the Steelers are forced to throw more and make more mistakes against a Ravens defense that has really tightened down over the last like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it for the Saturday slate. Let's move on over to the Sunday 3-gamer. Load in my projections.
Jalen Hurts is good to go, right? I'm pretty sure I saw that before we went on.
Yeah,
I was definitely expecting that. That's what I did for the projections. I was just making sure I'm not crazy.
Yeah, him and Lover are both good to go.
Yeah.
So on Sunday, first game that is kicking off is the Broncos at Bills for the 1 p.m. Eastern slot. Pretty wild line here for the Bills. 9-point favorites at home. Pretty good spot for them. I mean, all the wide receiver core is healthy. Josh Allen is looking good. And like Josh Allen typically does better against defenses like the Broncos, where he's kind of forced to run more, scramble more, and be Josh Allen elite and not Josh Allen game manager. And I think that this game sets up to be one of those scenarios where we do kind of see that MVP Josh that he flashes a couple of games this season.
Yep, I agree with you there. The problem is just like he's just it's been the same story with him his whole career basically. I guess now without Diggs especially, but he's just so hard to stack. I guess Shakir would be the safest option, but I don't have a great read on who the player is from Buffalo I'd want to play with Josh Allen.
No, I think you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable when you stack him. Like you want to get like Coleman and Shakir, and then like one of like Hollins or Samuel, and like, oh, well, then he also throws a ton to like Knox and Kincaid, and they're both playing, they're playing 11 personnel quite a bit too. But I think you have to be comfortable with playing. I mean, even Josh Allen naked with run backs on the Broncos, and just saying that like production will happen on the Bills and Josh Allen will be involved in it, but I'm not confident in anybody else. Or stacking it with like just one player, maybe a Coleman or a Shakir, who are like the leaders in snap rates on the receiving core, even though it's really not a ton of snaps. Or you could go with like a cheap guy like Samuel or Cooper.
Yeah, the nice thing about Coleman is Allen clearly trusts him. He'll just throw the ball up to him in the end zone. So yeah. You're just hoping to catch one. You can catch one of those. So I don't mind that, especially at his ownership. That looks okay to me. I think Bill's onslaughts are also in play, by the way. At 2018 total, you can definitely do the Allen Cook, Keon Coleman, and then one other player I think is probably fine even for a 3-game slate. I think you can get away with that on this one. And the ownership is pretty for a team with a 2018 total. The ownership is pretty nice, except for Shakir. Even Josh Allen's only like 20% owned projected. So this Bills offense looks good to me. The Broncos are tougher again to figure out, I think.
Yeah, and the backfield for the Buffalo is kind of interesting too. It's mostly James Cook, but he's getting his scoring through touchdown efficiency, and really not efficiency, more just like touchdown luck. 9 TDs in the last 8, and his snap count really isn't that high. Like Ray Davis is snapping quite a bit too, and then Ty Johnson is in for passing down works too, and they're both super low owned and also really cheap in ways you can roster points on the Bill side by and not carrying ownership with it.
Yeah, you definitely can't play Ray Davis and James Cook together. Like in a Bills 42-10 win, maybe it's possible that Cook and Johnson are optimal together. If like a Cook 3 touchdowns and Ty Johnson catches a long touchdown, he's cheap enough. But I definitely wouldn't play Ray Davis and Cook together. If you get any Ray Davis at all, he's an ownership projected. So
yeah, no, I think that's fair. Then on the Broncos side, it's going to be another Bo Nix, passing probably 40 times this game, ranking fairly high in PRE. The Broncos are recently, scoring also up pretty high over their last few games. It's going to be a scenario where they're going to have to be throwing, and it's Cortland Sutton as the clear leader in the receiving core, but behind him it's Marvin Mims maybe. Doesn't play a ton of snaps. He's kind of that same Quentin Johnson role where when he's on the field, he does get targets, but they're downfield targets and high upside, low floor targets.
Yeah. Mims, I played him so many times in Showdown. I'm just going to keep complaining about how all these guys that are now turning out to be good. Is like Marvin Mims is another classic example of somebody I played all the time in Showdown last year, did nothing, and now this year he's just like breaking 80-yard touchdowns every game. I don't really feel like playing him at 5,100 at double-digit ownership. I mean, he's going to be schemed for 3 or 4 targets, and you're just hoping he catches a big one, I guess. But he's still sharing time. It's not like he's like running 100% of routes or whatever. He just doesn't have the target upside that other receivers I think in his price range do. But yeah. Sutton's a fine play because he's like by far the number 1 target for Bo Nix. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I mean he's getting there on target. Really, I mean, if he's efficient with them, he has upside too. But he's just that possession receiver that Bo Nix can trust. And the backfield's kind of a mess too. Like you got McLaughlin and Estime splitting stuff, and you got Javonte Williams also catching targets. I mean, McLaughlin also catching a few targets. Bills generally, I mean, they're allowing yards on the ground against running backs, and they're also allowing a lot of targets to running backs as well. So it's a good matchup for them, but like the backfield is really, really yucky and hard to predict usage too. So
yeah, I probably trust McLaughlin the most. I feel like he has a safer floor because he is like a traditional pass catching back. But yeah, tough. I don't know if I don't really know if we need to dumpster dive into the Broncos backfield for this slate.
No, I mean, I don't really want to go there. There's definitely way better spots to go. We'll talk about in the afternoon in the late slate, in the late game. Yeah, I mean, like you said, if you aren't stacking this game, what sort of plays would you like to be targeting? Like if you're stacking, like obviously like the Baker Mayfield stack, do you want pieces from this game? And if so, like what are they?
Yeah, I mean, Cook, I think it's a decent look. It's risky, but I think that's, he's only 6,700 still. It's not bad. I think Keon Coleman for like a value low-owned player, that's not bad either. And Amari Cooper, I mean, I don't know what his role is going to be this week. Who knows? But I mean, 1% ownership on a 3-game slate. And, he's still Amari Cooper, right? He still has a ceiling. I don't mind that either as a dart throw.
Yeah. If you're not playing Josh Allen, like you said, I think James Cook is a good shout. It's not a great matchup against the Denver run D. I mean, you don't like it, but again, if the Bills are scoring and it's not through Josh Allen, it's probably James Cook, like a 2-yard rush at the goal line where they're just out of like Josh Allen shove range, but close enough that they don't really want to give the ball to anybody else.
Yeah. And I think Kincaid, by the way, also is a cheap tight end. Pretty much any one of the only skill position player I'm hesitant about is Shakir, and that's purely just an ownership thing. I think he has a solid floor, but I'm not sure if I really want to be playing into that ownership if I'm doing a popular game stack of a different game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That's all I had for this game.
Yep, me too.
Next up for the afternoon slate, I keep calling it the slate. I mean, it's just a game, but you get it. Packers at Eagles for a rematch of their Week 1 game in Brazil that saw A.J. Brown and Jaden Reed have tremendous ceiling games. Hurts will be healthy for this, as will blanking Jordan Love. What do you see from this game?
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon.
Josh Jacobs. Yeah, Hurts has the ceiling just because he can rush for 3 touchdowns because the quarterback sneaks, but I'm not in love with the Hurts Brown or Hurts Smith stack. I think Smith had a huge game against the Packers in that Brazil game, didn't he? I think he was the one that had a big game. He got a touchdown, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, yeah, I mean, Saquon to me is like the premier piece in this game. Just he has the floor, he has this obvious ceiling too. Feels like I'm not going to be going to want to be fading that. I don't know. First, I think this is gonna be a really good game, but I'm not like that interested from a DFS stuff. I think I like playing the Bills offense a little bit more, and I like the third game more.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm going to be putting a lot of my rosters here, as with the field, but yeah, it's a good matchup. Both of these teams are like the highest run rate teams in the NFL currently and are happy to run the ball. Even trailing, we saw against Minnesota, LaFleur was more than happy while trailing by multiple touchdowns to continue pounding the rock with Josh Jacobs against a Minnesota run defense that was holding them to like very few yards per carry. And I could see a scenario here as well in the same spot. Like, I mean, it wouldn't make like obviously they want to continue and go on to the next round, but like we didn't see it against Minnesota, who's when they're fighting for playoff seeding, they just refused to start passing the ball more.
Yeah.
No Christian Watson for the Packers, so more targets for guys like Wicks and Dobbs. I mean, if I do like stacking this game as a way to kind of say like this game shoots out, and then the Bucks game doesn't, and it's a lower scoring affair. But it's a hard one to stack too, because obviously you want to play Saquon, but if you're playing this game as a high scoring affair, I mean, you probably want to go the Jordan Love side. But who do you stack with him? Probably Reed and one of Dobbs and Wicks, maybe Tucker Kraft.
Luke Musgrave, you're a legend.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like the Hurts plus Brown and Smith stack is interesting. It's affordable. Like you had Devontae Smith at 5,700, and you're kind of betting against the Saquon ownership and saying that all the production goes through the air. But are you ready to back with more receivers from the Green Bay side and thinking it's a shootout, or is it they're playing from behind? I mean, that's probably not likely.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my issue is like, what is the game script where the Eagles feel like they have to throw the ball 40 times to make that specific stack optimal? Because they're going to be feeding Saquon, and their defense, especially because their defense has been so good, they aren't going to want to get into a shootout. And so it's just tough for me to see that style of lineup, the Hurts Brown. I could see Hurts Brown. I could see Hurts Barkley Brown or Hurts Barkley Smith being optimal, but probably not Hurts and two pass catchers.
Yeah, I agree. Like even like a high passing game for Jalen Hurts on the Eagles is like 27 attempts.
Yeah,
that's you'd be happy with that if you're playing for a game where you want him to pass a ton. It's just I don't think this is the game where that happens. I think this is a really just run heavy game on both sides, and they're hoping they can best one another.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if I'm game stacking this, I'm probably playing Love as the quarterback, but that just doesn't feel great. I do think there is some validity to the whole, like the Eagles defense has been really good, especially in the secondary, and the way teams have been attacking them is with tight ends. So I do think there's some validity to the Kraft projection and ownership. And also, like I said, I was joking about Luke Musgrave, but he has been getting more snaps, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them run a lot of two tight end here and try to create matchups for those two guys. So I really don't mind it as like a super dart throw, but yeah, the rest of this game, I'm just like not that interested in compared to the other two.
Yeah, I mean Tucker Kraft's been the guy for them in tight end, but like the ownership disparity between the two is insane, and you get a ton of saving on Luke Musgrave. So I don't hate it as like a super flyer in larger tournaments.
And Musgrave was the starter right at the beginning of the year. Like he got hurt and he hasn't been healthy all year long. Now he's finally supposedly healthy. So like who knows what Matt LaFleur is going to do? He's probably not even going to play Luke Musgrave at all. He's going to go 5 wide, and I'll completely wrong, but I don't mind taking a couple shots at it in MME.
Yeah. I'm there with you. I feel like I was going to say something, but it slipped my mind. Yeah, I don't know. It'll come to me. I'll randomly blurt it out sometime. Let's move on to the late night hammer, the juicy game that everybody wants to play.
Yeah.
You've got Commanders at Bucks. Bucks, Mr. Baker himself, has been on an absolute tear. The whole offense has for like the last 6 weeks straight. Bucky Irving, obviously going to be massive chalk here, but probably deservedly so. He's emerged as the number one option for him and has been optimal in Baker stacks more often than not. Like the Baker plus running back plus wide receiver stack is going to be pretty popular and for good reason. That combo's been putting up points for like 5 weeks straight now.
Yep. The problem is just the salary is getting up there for Bucky to make it. Like I guess on a 3-game slate it'd still be viable, but it is kind of expensive now to do that. Where before when Bucky was like 5,700, it's a little easier.
We get our favorite wide receiver cornerback matchup in the league. We get the Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore fist fight in the end zone stuff going on. So that's always fun.
Ejection odds increase for Mike Evans. You got to take that into account now.
Yeah, so maybe bump for the up and comers on the Bucks receiving core when he gets ejected in the first quarter.
Yeah,
I do like Jaden Daniels on this side as well. I think his rushing upside here is tremendous. He tends to rush more in these matchups too, and against the Bucks too. I think like their real like actual rushing game with, even though they're healthy, the backfield, it doesn't have a good matchup here against Tampa Bay. And in general, I think the passing game is going to be good. I like the Olamide Zaccheaus, and I like the Zach Ertz and the Terry McLaurin stack with Jaden Daniels, but I also like Jaden Daniels, in isolation just for his rushing upside that he has.
Yeah, for me on this slate, it's Daniels and Allen, and then everybody else at quarterback. I'm definitely going to be overweight on both those players. Just the floor, the rushing floor is just too good for both of them, and the offense runs through both of them, right? I mean, like, there's Washington doesn't have like a workhorse running back like Saquon that they can give the ball to. They're kind of forced to have Jaden Daniels throw the ball a lot and run around a lot.
Yeah. I mean, both teams, compared to the other teams we've talked about so far for the Saturday and Sunday slate, defensively aren't powerhouses, susceptible to giving up huge scores, and their offense are both explosive as well. So, I mean, this game is far and away the clear game stacking option on the slate. It's just going to come down to unique ways of stacking it. I kind of like playing these cheaper guys as part of a stack as a way to be unique, like an Olamide Zaccheaus, popular but not super popular. But you can get really nasty with some of the guys down low, like Rashad White over Bucky Irving, and play that side of it too.
Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, Mr. Chowder, Jets legend.
He's playing a lot. Yeah.
I don't hate it at all. Jalen McMillan,
3K or whatever he is. I mean, he lets you fit in wherever you want. But do you really need to do that? There's enough tight ends on the slate that you don't really need to dumpster dive like on the Saturday slate.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you could consider adding defenses, both same team as your quarterback or opposing, as part of your stack if you want a way to be unique in this. I think, obviously passing volume, going to be high on both sides, but I think, like the Commanders defense in a Baker stack is probably fine too. He's prone to turning the ball over, and his passing volume is typically way up too. So
passing volume is fine. Passing volume is good for a defense because more opportunities to turn the ball over. Or like if a team runs the ball a bunch, like most of the time it's just going to be a fumble from the running back. It won't be returned for a touchdown, where there's a lot of variance in an interception or a sack fumble.
Yeah. I don't really have a ton of interest in like the Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler side of it. Like the Commanders' O-line really isn't that great to begin with, and the Tampa's run defense is pretty strong. So I like pretty much everybody else on the offense besides the backfield.
Yeah, I guess I don't mind Eckler and Daniel stacks, but as one-offs, I'm not really a huge fan. I mean, you do get the ownership discount with Brian Robinson Jr., which makes him somewhat interesting, but I'm much more likely to focus on this passing game here for Washington. I guess my question would be how many, because Daniels obviously is a runner, like he's first and foremost a runner, as a fantasy point scorer. And so I was kind of curious how many pass catchers you would stack with him. Like, what would be your limit of like 3 pass catchers with him, or just 2 double stacks, and that's it?
I mean, on a main slate, I would probably lean towards 2 or even 1. But like thinking of how people are rostering teams on smaller slates too, like you can kind of argue this logic as well for Josh Allen, where like, it's probably the right play to only stack him with like 1 or 2 options at most, but it's going to be not very popular to stack him with 3 or 4 receiving options. I mean, it's not likely to be the best outcome either, but as a way to be different, if the offense does score a ton of points and it's spread out, there's paths to where 3 and 4 pass catchers from the Commanders can be viable.
Yeah, I think I agree. But I think 2, like, sounds like if I'm playing 20 lineups, for example, I think I'd stick at 2 for
and like
Washington
you're
and Buffalo.
Like single entry stuff and smaller 3 max and stuff. That's where I'm going to be too. But larger contests, obviously you have to be more different. But like if ownership isn't a huge issue, you probably don't want 3 or 4 Commanders.
Yep, agree.
Tampa Bay doesn't have that problem. You can stack everybody on Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
As we've seen in main slates multiple times this year, 5 pass catchers with Baker's good.
And then I guess my only other recommendation too is like, if you aren't playing this game as part of a stack, like be careful with your one-offs. Like I'm probably not playing Bucky Irving one-off if I'm not playing like as part of a game stack. Like if you want to be lower on this game, I would probably do one-offs of guys like Zacchaeus, maybe Zach Ertz, Jalen McMillan, like the second, third options on teams, and kind of hope that they have a concentrated, high-scoring game, and the rest of the offense doesn't really do much.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me. I think Brian Robinson makes sense as a one-off because if he ends up optimal, he's low owned. First of all, he's not like Bucky Irving at 60% ownership. You're getting a huge ownership discount on Brian Robinson. And one scenario is just that Washington runs the ball 40 times with him, and they have a lot of success, and it slows the game way down, way under projection, and that would make something like a Green Bay Phillies game stack more likely to be optimal. So I don't mind Brian Robinson as a one-off, but I would much rather play him as a one-off than as a stack partner with Jaden Daniels, I guess is the larger point I'm getting at.
Yeah, I like that recommendation of choosing another game to stack or to shoot out and stack that one and use the less popular running back from this game as a way to be contrarian.
Yeah. Especially because, yeah. I was going to make a point, and then I just kind of like, yeah, you already made my point.
I mean, I don't have anything else from this game really other than like this is where like in my single entry and 3-max stuff, this is basically what I'm building around and running a few different variations of it with other pieces from the earlier slates.
Yep, should be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, all these, I mean, I guess Baltimore, Pittsburgh I could do without, but the rest of these games should be really good, I think. I mean, Denver, Buffalo has a lot of variance. I guess Buffalo should win by margin, but, Denver's offense has been good enough that game should be somewhat interesting, and the rest of these games should be really good.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a fun game to watch for Josh Allen. I think we're going to get a lot of like scrambling out of the pocket stuff. Is going to be good.
A fun game to watch if you have Buffalo onslaughts because it's the first game, so you'll be winning. Like you'll be way up.
You'll get your early screenshots in.
Yeah.
I think a Chargers game is going to be fun to watch too. Maybe I'm a little biased, but
yeah, I think it'll be pretty. It'll be ugly, but it should be pretty competitive. Which is like I've seen worse.
Yeah, like a good game on screen, like it's a good football game to watch. It's not a. It's not a
two good quarterbacks too. That's the other nice thing is like even though it might be low scoring, it's two good quarterbacks. Where some of these low scoring games are just like Spencer Rattler against Aiden O'Connell. It's like this isn't exactly the most fun thing to watch.
Lamar, Josh Allen, DFS or season long? I'm guessing DFS because we're focusing on DFS. But I mean, for me, it's Lamar and DFS, and season long.
I'd go Josh Allen. I think in both.
Yeah.
There's just more ways that Lamar doesn't get there. Unless Denver's defense just has like I mean, they've been really good, but I mean, Buffalo hasn't been stopped by anybody. And Lamar cannot get there because Derrick Henry runs for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Or he can not get there because they have a repeat of the earlier game this year where Pittsburgh shut down Baltimore. So I just think there's more ways Lamar fails than Josh Allen.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin could do some voodoo on the field. That's fair.
Exactly.
Death taxes and Mike Tomlin in the playoffs.
Yep.
That's probably fair. There's more vulture opportunities at the goal line too for somebody like for like Lamar. So I don't have anything else. Do we want to? We can't really do like low owned plays for the slate, I guess.
We could I mean, we could just do like relative to ownership.
Yeah, relative to ownership. I like that. I guess like we're gonna pick a guy that like relative to ownership, we're gonna be either most over or most underweight on.
Yeah,
like to the extremes on either side.
Yeah, that works.
All right, let's check the quarterbacks then. We've got Josh Allen, 24%, Jaden Daniels, 22%, Baker, 18%, Hurts, 18%, Nick's at 11%, and Jordan Love at 6%.
Man, I'd probably say Josh Allen for this one. I'd probably be most overweight on him because like I said earlier, him and Daniels to me are like the two plays I'll have the most of. I'll probably end up with, let's say I'm running 20 lineups. I'll probably have 50% Josh Allen. So I'd probably say him for this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd probably be most overweight on Jane Daniels.
We'll just take the two best players.
Yeah.
Kind of pointless talking about it for quarterbacks, but yeah.
Yeah, it's the same concept as you, though, where like if I'm playing a 3 max, 2 of them are probably Jane Daniels. Like if I'm playing a 20 max, I would say at least over half of them are Jane Daniels for me.
Yep, that seems about right. Seems about right to me. And I just like Jordan Love can obviously get there in a game stack. I might have 1 or 2 in 20 lineups, Green Bay, Philly game stacks, but like Bo Nix, I probably won't play any in 20 lineups. Baker, I'll have a couple, but not very much. I'll just be very overweight on the top 2 plays here.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think Jordan Love is worth a shot at 6% in some stuff, but I'm not like
Field, yeah.
I'm not smashing it.
Yep.
I'd be happy to get 6% in like a 150 set. I think that'd be fine.
Yep.
Running back, we got Bucky Chalk, followed by Saquon, Josh Jacobs, James Cook. Who is it for you? Who's the guy for you you're liking the most at running back?
This one's tough. Relative to ownership, I don't know. I'd probably say Brian Robinson Jr. at 16% if I'm stacking like playing Bills on slots with Josh Allen and just hoping that Washington's able to run the ball and keep the game low scoring. Because like you could say the same thing for Bucky Irving, but then you're playing into salary and ownership. So I don't really want to do that. So let's just say Brian Robinson Jr. is a way to get leverage off that late game. Even though I hope that late game, like I'm going to have a lot of all my other lines will be focused on that late game. So I hope it does shoot out, but I do think that's like the nice leverage play.
Yeah. I'd probably be most underweight to like Josh Jacobs. I think, I mean, just in general, I think the Packers are going to be forced to pass. They might not, it's up to LaFleur whether they're going to do it or not, but I'd rather take that 30% and sprinkle it over like, Saquon Barkley, a little bit of James Cook, maybe some B-Rob or Eckler.
Yep.
I don't love Bucky at 57, but I think I'm going to have so much of that late game that I'm probably going to be around the field at that ownership, and I'm just going to be different in other ways in my roster.
Saquon at 38% looks a little under owned to me. I probably have more than that in my build.
I mean, clearly a tier above every other running back on the slate. Love it. The ceiling's super high. And I'm definitely not playing a guy like Bucky, I think, outside of that environment. He's like just strictly a late game stack guy for me. So
yeah, unless I find ways to be different enough, but I'm not sure. Like if I have a Luke Musgrave lineup, for example, that Luke Musgrave catches 2 touchdowns out of nowhere, then I would stay with Bucky Irving. But like most builds probably wouldn't have very much outside of like in the game stack environment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of Musgrave and the tight end position, this is how ownership shaking out. We got Kraft, Ertz, and Kincaid in the 30s, low 30s, followed by Goddard and Otten, and then it falls off a cliff to the like the 7 tight ends that Sean Payton likes to run out for the Broncos.
So is Musgrave not even projected at all by ETR? Is that what I'm seeing?
They should be. Maybe
or just have a 0 ownership. Maybe. We'll have to fix that. I'm going to project him for 20 in our projections. Actually, I do have our projections up on.
Oh yeah, there he is. No ownership. Sorry, I was sorting by the wrong. Oh, yeah. Well,
so okay. Well, relative to 0 ownership, he's the one I'd have the most of.
Yeah,
it's easy enough. I do like Kincaid at 30%. I think that's okay. But yeah, I mean everything. I'm not really. I think Musgrave's probably the one I'd probably be most relative. Beyond the most relative to ownership.
Yeah, I mean, compared to a guy like Lucas Kroll, I mean, I think Musgrave is like 100% play over Lucas Kroll.
Yeah, and he's so cheap, it's easier to fit in Saquon and other good pieces.
Yeah, I'll probably be fairly underweight to Kincaid. I think if I'm playing Josh Allen, it's going to be a really low stat count, and I'm probably getting to a guy like Coleman over Kincaid. I'll definitely be overweight to Zach Ertz. Just as part of my stacks with Jaden, but not really a ton of love for Dallas Goedert for me either. Like 25%. I don't know. Like Philly's going to run the ball, and if they are passing, I mean, he's got 2 other mouths to feed on the team. So I don't really love the Goddard spot.
Me either. I'll probably end up being under that.
Kate Otten's fine. I'll probably have more than 17% of Kate Otten, but it's not like a play I'm looking to slot in as like the first guy in my roster.
Yeah, Kraft also looks okay to me. Like I said, I do think the way Green Bay is going to move the ball here is through Jacobs, and I think through the passing game, I think they're going to be using a lot of the two tight end stuff. So I think Kraft has a decent floor as well. But I do agree with you about Ertz being kind of probably the guy I end up having the most of.
Yeah. And then moving on to receiver, we got Mike Evans. Well, let me sort by ownership again. We got Shakir, Smith, and Evans as the highest owned receivers. Who on this list are you going to be most over, most under on?
Most under, man, just tough. Probably Shakir, even though I'll have a lot of Josh Allen, and I'll probably be most over then on Keon Coleman and hope he catches a touchdown.
Yeah,
he's just like unowned.
Yeah, I like flipping those two quite a bit. Like ownership is just kind of ridiculous. Like 37 versus 7 when they're both kind of snapping at the same rate and the Bills are so spread out to begin with. It just doesn't really seem that right to me.
Yeah. But I mean, Shakir does have like the slot, like a low 8-out role that he has a way better floor than Keon Coleman. But
sure, yeah.
I do think for a tournament upside, yeah, that's probably the two.
I'm going to be way over on Mike Evans and Terry McLaurin.
F1.
I mean, basically, yeah. Love him. Jalen McMillan, too. I think it's fine.
What were you saying? You basically what?
Oh, as far as like my stacking options with Jaden, like those guys are probably in like 95% of the rosters, if not 100.
Yep, I agree. Jalen McMillan I think actually looks really good too, especially if Mike Evans gets ejected for fighting Marshawn Lattimore, which you can't rule out even in a playoff game.
No.
I think Zacchaeus, De'Ami Brown, and Crowder you can make a case for like unowned. I guess Zacchaeus has a little bit of ownership, but the other two are unowned, and they get mixed in enough with Washington, even at the goal line, that I don't mind them for dart throws, just like Keon Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, anybody in that Washington-Tampa game you could talk me into.
Yeah, I like it. I think between like the receivers in the Green Bay and Eagles game, I won't be over on them, but if I was, it'd probably be Jaden Reed. I think he has the best matchup out of the receiving core, and he's got schemed usage as well. So
yeah, he's so frustrating. But yeah, I do agree. Like if it's one pass catcher for Green Bay, he's the one.
Yeah.
Watch it be Romeo Dobbs. I just had like a weird premonition that it's going to be Romeo Dobbs just having a monster game out of nowhere.
I mean, he gets those nuke downfield stuffs.
Yeah.
Or not, so it's definitely possible. I don't really love like the Troy Franklin or Devon Bailey route for the Broncos. They are going to have to be passing, but they're really thin plays. I'd rather get to like like the Amari Cooper, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins dart throws as part of a Josh Allen stack. Just more trust in him than I do Bo Nix.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. The bring back for Denver's pretty like I guess Mims as the other guy I'd probably be under on 5,100 compared to the field. Sutton is like pretty clearly the bring back for Denver if you're doing it with Josh Allen, even though he is kind of expensive.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like it has to be. I don't think you need a run back for a Josh Allen stack, but if you are,
definitely don't.
Yeah, it's going to be Courtland Sutton.
Yep.
Let's take a peek at the defenses before we head out of here. Not really like tons of concentrated ownership, but some love for the Bucs and the Bills, which makes sense. But I think for me, I'm going to be most overweight on the Commanders defense, even in lineups where I'm betting on the game environment to score a ton. Because like you said, for defenses, we're really just looking for opportunities for turnovers and opportunities for sacks and fumbles and all that. And that game is going to have a ton of it. They're cheap and they're going to be relatively low owned.
Yep. Agree with you there. I think Eagles, even though they're the most expensive this week, I think they look pretty good, especially if you aren't playing much from that game. It makes sense to play them. They can get the interceptions and the sacks, and Green Bay's likely not to throw a lot, so that makes sense to me. But it's more expensive, so if it fits, I like it. But this is kind of one of those things where I I'm not going to be too focused on what defenses are ending up in my builds unless I'm getting like 100% of one. It's just like a 3-game slate. It's going to be completely random here which defense is good because all these teams and offenses are pretty good. So it's not like there's some like Raiders against Spencer Rattler or whatever.
No.
You bring up poor Spencer Rattler, but
yeah, poor guy. Yeah, I mean, I have preferences for the Commanders and the Bucks as defenses, but I'd be fine getting really any of them, like maybe except the Packers. Like that game in general is going to be a lot of running, and there won't be a ton of opportunities for turnovers. I mean, Hurts and Love are both, fairly good at keeping the ball in play and not in the hands of the defense. So don't really like going there, but they're fine if they happen.
Yep. Agree.
Favorite stack of the week? What's the win all the marbles stack?
Of the slate?
Yeah.
Ooh, let's do all right, you know what? Well, I'm already all in, so let's do the Josh Allen, Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman's gonna catch 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen, 3 touchdowns passing, 1 rushing. They win by 15 or whatever. That seems right to me.
Very nice. I'll go with the Jaden Daniels, Zacchaeus, and Zach stack.
Won't even do the F1.
Nope. So I'm sure he'll score 2 touchdowns and 180 yards, and that's gonna be that.
For some reason, whenever I sim, it's just the way that the math works out. But like, I just never end up with McLaurin lineups with Jaden Daniels, like in the regular season. Maybe it'll be different. I actually haven't. I ran a sim earlier, but I didn't check to see how much that combination I got. For some reason, in the regular season, I always got a ton of Jaden Daniels with Ertz, and
I did too.
And not much McLaurin. But maybe it'll be different here on this slate.
Yeah. I guess we could talk about our favorite stacks on Saturday as well, but we're probably going to be on the same side of the page there.
It's just Lamar.
It's just Lamar.
Yeah, and a little bit of Herbert.
Yeah, I will have some Charger stacks for fun because I do think that there is upside there, but yeah, it's Lamar.
Yep.
Lamar, Bateman likely, Lamar, Henry likely, Lamar, whoever likely. Aguilar, sure. Why not?
Lamar, Justice Hill, and Henry is a really fun
Justice
Hill, to start a lineup with.
The Tylan Wallace stuff, yeah. Darius Davis, Xavier Hutchinson. There's some fun cheabies on the Saturday slate for sure.
Yep. And I do think the Stroud Collins stack obviously has winning upside for a 2-game slate, especially. But Nico Collins earlier in the year before he got hurt was playing like the best receiver in the league. So I would not be surprised to see those two end up being the optimal lineup tomorrow.
Definitely. Well, thanks you guys for watching and tuning into our show. If you have not yet joined our Discord, be sure to do that. You'll find links on our website, acemind.io. You'll also find our tools there. Be sure to try those out if you haven't already. We'll have some tennis up soon, so you can play that during the NFL lulls, which is always fun to do. Golf is up and running so far. We'll see how Sunday shakes out for everybody that was playing golf with our sim tools, but last year I used them to great success. So if you're interested in golf DFS as well, promo code TIGER for a discount on your first month. Be sure to check out our Discord. Yeah.
Yep. And then I have projections up for tomorrow's slate. I might do projections for the Steelers Ravens showdown. I'm not sure yet. And then I'll have projections up for the Sunday slate tomorrow as well. And I'm going to try to we should have tennis up and running for the Australian Open that starts Sunday, like you said. And I'm going to try to get my projection model for that up and running by Sunday as well. I'm going to be spending most of tomorrow afternoon working on that. See if I can get that up for everybody because I want to bet on the tennis too.
We're going to lose Jung because he's up at 4 a.m. watching tennis.
Yeah.
Sleeping till 6. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm already training because I've been playing Balatro and I can't put it down. So I'm like up until 2 a.m. playing Balatro. So I'm already on the Australian Open time.
Yeah. Is the music still just constantly playing in your head? Like you can't get the music out of your head, like the sound of the cards rifling and.
Yep.
What a great game! Fantastic,
yeah, amazing game. So addictive. It's like the 3 most addictive substances on earth are heroin, crack, and Balatro.
It's just such a good itch. It's like poker hands with like number go burr and like strategy and man, it's fun.
trying to figure out how to get your multipliers to hit right. And yeah, I didn't even realize, like, it took me a while to figure out you can move around all your Joker cards and stuff so you can line up the multiple. Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
You can also move around your cards in the order that they're played.
Yep, I realized that too because I've been playing on Switch and I was using the touchscreen and I realized I could drag the cards around when I was on the touchscreen. Yeah. So yeah, a Balatro tip for everybody.
Yeah, shout out Balatro. Good luck on your slates, your Saturday and Sunday if you're playing. Like I said, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check out our Discord and our tools if you are not already a member. And yeah, we will see you next week.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.